All right. Well, welcome everyone to our first Zoom of the year. I'm so excited that you all are here and joining us this evening. Um, we have a lot of things to cover, lots of new things happening in middle school, new programs, new faces. And so I just wanted to make sure that we all were on the same page and you guys knew what was going on with everything happening in the middle school. So tonight we are going to be covering, I want to show you guys a couple pictures from the retreat. I think that we had a successful retreat this year. I want you to know who's who in middle school. When do you contact different people? For what reasons? We have made some changes to the handbook that went out to you all last week, but we want to highlight just a couple of things and bring them to your attention. Some clubs and organizations, we have a little bit of change in the procedures happening there, new things this year, and then I'll go over a couple just housekeeping things that I want to make sure everyone has on their radar. The first thing we have to cover was our retreats that happened almost 2 weeks ago. So this year we went ahead and found a place very close to TMI. It's a 10-minute drive, like right behind the Starbucks there in Leon Springs. It's called Sila Vista. Great programming. If you have kids in scouts or need to do team building, highly recommend it. But they really just did some phenomenal programming to get our kids talking, working together, team building, really just low ropes. If you had read the fine print or anything, we couldn't get up on the high ropes courses because it did require the students to be 13 years of age. So some of our kiddos would not, most of our kiddos wouldn't have made that cutoff. But you can see here some great pictures from that. The kids all had a great time. I know sixth grade was hot a little bit. They went at the end of the day, but they had popsicles, Gatorade, water, cooling towels, all sorts of great things for them over at Sila Vista. Back at school, we did a little bit of orientation. We got students onto the printer so that they could print any papers they needed to up in the library. We had them making sure that they understood on campus, understood different handbook changes, singing the alma mater. Sixth graders did that with Coach Gertz, and just really getting them oriented into middle school and everyone on the same page there. And then Dr. Stryker did a phenomenal job doing some more team building games. You can see them there with the web and then the cone game, which gets very competitive and heated as well. Before I go any further, I want to make sure that you know that you can, if you guys have questions throughout this presentation, go ahead and just put them into the chat. They'll come to Mrs. Clements and I, and we will either respond to you aloud at the end of this presentation. We'll respond to you directly through the chat. And if we don't get to it now, we are keeping track of these questions on the side, and we will follow up with you in the next couple of days. So I want to first talk about who is who in our middle school right now. So first off, I'm Miss Sanderson. I am the head of middle school. So anything happening in middle school, I have a hand in it. Academics, discipline, programs, organizations, curriculum, faculty, those are every part of it. I know what's going on in it. So anytime you have any questions, please come to me. My main focus this year is really looking at our middle school curriculum and helping faculty to look at their curriculums, develop them a little bit more, consider what do we need, and where are our goals at for that. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. A new face that we have this year is Mrs. Clements. She is the assistant head of middle school for student life, otherwise known as my right hand at this point. We tend to be in sync everywhere we go and stride together. The kids see us, and she's really been super helpful for everything she has been doing. So she is overseeing all things discipline. She is helping Dr. Stryker with advisory this year. She oversees clubs and organizations and any programs, events, things like that that are happening with the students. She's going to do that. So if it involves the students and their involvement in TMI and things that they're doing, she's going to be your person for that. The next person we have is Dr. Stryker. She's the middle school counselor. She is focused on all things social emotional learning. We all know that middle school is a roller coaster of emotions for students. They are trying to figure out who they are, who do they belong with, how different interactions are happening with their friends, and really where they fit in the world. And so she is there to help guide them, chat with them. If they're just feeling like they have an off day, she is a great person to go to. She, along with, I'm going to go ahead and get her up here, Miss Adams, they're in a new space this year. So if you're familiar with admissions and where Erin Hawkins is up in Ayers, they're kind of around the corner where the business office used to be up in Ayers in the Student Support Center. So they're up there. It's a nice quiet place. They have extra benches. They have workrooms. If a kid just needs a quiet space to work, needs to get away from all distractions, they now have the space up there for that. And so students know that they can always ask a teacher, ask Miss Clements or I, and they can go up and visit with them and check in with them. Miss Adams is our director of academic support. So if your student's coming from another school and they had an academic success plan, 504 plan, IEP, need some sort of accommodations or anything like that, she's the person you would go to with that information, and then she can help let you know what can we accommodate at TMI within our boundaries and with the support that we have. But she's also there to help kids with that executive functioning. Again, middle schoolers, they have the social thing happening, but then they also are trying to get organized. They're going teacher to teacher. They have lockers now. So she can also help set up plans. Does your kid need a planner? Do they need to reorganize their expandable folder? Do they need to switch to a binder? She is phenomenal at all things organization and just academics in the classroom with your students. So please feel free to reach out to either of these women if you need help in any of those areas. And if you forget who they are, you can come to Mrs. Clements and I, and we'll direct you in the right direction with that. I am actually going to go ahead and pass it over to Mrs. Clements right now, and she's going to tell you a little bit about her world and the things happening in her world at TMI.
Yes. Hello. I'm really excited to be a part of the TMI community. I'm coming from Bernie ISD, and kind of funnily, a lot of you I kind of know through that. So it's awesome to be a part of this community. So this year, there are a few significant handbook changes that we just wanted to highlight and answer any questions if there are any. The first being the cell phone policy, and with that is also the smartwatch policy. So really any kind of electronic device outside of the laptops in the school setting. So for this, we're using the phrase off and away, meaning it should be powered off the cell phone and it should not be on their person. So it shouldn't be in pockets, that sort of thing. It really should be in their locker or their backpacks. We're aware that teachers do have discretion, and sometimes teachers do ask students to do various things, pictures, videos, and whatnot. But we just ask students that if they have not gotten permission, they should not have it out and it should not be on. The other side of that with smartwatches, the policy states that smartwatches do need to be off cellular data. So whether it's an Apple Watch, a Garmin, etc., they should not have the capability like a cell phone would for texting and calling. And the heart behind that really is just to ensure that students are focused, they're engaged, and to, should something arise, we have our student office who Mr. Alexander and Mrs. Griffin are incredible. And so should there be a reason for you to need to communicate with your student, you can do that through the student office or myself and Miss Anderson, and we can get that information to them. The next part is uniforms. We know that there was a little bit of a hiccup with Lands End, but we have confirmed that the TMI monogram ties are back in stock. So I know we were saying if you did not have one, especially if you're new to TMI, to use a solid black tie, but now that those are in stock, there will be a little bit of a grace period, but we do ask that you go ahead and order the monogram TMI tie since they are back. Also, something else, last year, students had to have specific things not on their outerwear, but this year they can have black, gray, or white non-TMI hoodies or sweatshirts. And that logo can be there, but it has to be 2 inches or smaller. So I know it can be difficult to find like a Nike pullover that your student might like, but has a huge logo along the front. So we are just asking that those logos be 2 inches or smaller. So those are now permitted, which is a change from last year. Also, to that note, are shoes. There have been a lot of questions regarding shoes. Shoes have to be mostly all black or mostly all gray or mostly all white. So a common shoe that we see a lot are those Nike Blazers that are kind of the high tops. They are predominantly white, most of them, depending on the style. So those are okay. If you are ever concerned or not sure prior to purchasing shoes, if they fit within the dress code, please feel free to email myself or Miss Sanderson. We actually have gotten quite a few of them. So please, we would rather you ask and us be able to have that conversation versus y'all spend a lot of money for shoes that do not abide by the dress code. And on that same line, the sock colors have now been added to be more specific. So it's the same 3 colors. Socks should be black, gray, or white with those. And just as a reminder, this is not something new, but just carry over from last year. And we're seeing it a little bit this year, is making sure that skirts and shorts are not rolled at the waist or at the hemline on the bottom. The length is fingertip length. That still is the same from previous years, but we're seeing a lot of students starting to roll them. So just helping us out there to make sure that they're abiding by that part of the dress code. For consecutive absences, this is a change. Last year, I believe it was 5 consecutive absences were allowed as long as the student was in good standing. But this year, just out of the nature of looking out for your student and their success to not have gaps, that is now changed to 3 consecutive absences. And students do still need to be in good standing, and that is also clearly defined. So students cannot be failing a course or have 2 or more D grades in a course. So just making sure that you'll understand that that change happens. So it's now 3 consecutive absences are allowed, but anything outside of that is outside of the policy for TMI's attendance purposes. And the last bit that is new, I'm sure many of us have seen it, maybe even used it, but AI, artificial intelligence, is coming into all kinds of walks of life. And as it gets smarter and used more often, it's something that we know in education has become a topic of discussion. And so at TMI, we have added a policy in our handbook this year that essentially chalks it up to teacher discretion. We are not shying away that AI does not exist, because it does. And we really want to use this as an opportunity to lean in and teach students how to responsibly use AI. And so with that, unless the teacher has permitted them, we ask that students should not use AI unless it's a part of instructions. And so the new policy essentially just reads that any submission of a test, a project, an assignment where the teacher has not permitted the use of artificial intelligence is subject for honor code review, just because of that aspect of what AI is capable of. So we want students to be able to use it responsibly, but we also want to make sure that students are honing in their own abilities as well. All right, so this next piece I'm extremely excited about. So I started this summer, June 12th to be exact, which was a really great gift, because Ms. Anderson and myself got to really dream up what we wanted middle school to look like. With this position for myself being added, we wanted to make sure that middle school students really felt a true identity at TMI. And so part of that is how clubs and organizations, and then houses, which I'll talk about in a second. So clubs is going to be a little bit revamped this year. The hope really is to develop students more as leaders versus the teacher doing everything and facilitating everything. So this year, the students truly are leading their organizations. We have had quite a few club proposals, so we're very excited. And that club proposal form does not close until this Friday at 5 p.m. So if your student is thinking about proposing a club, there's really absolutely no risk involved. So please encourage them to do so. Or if you want me to have a conversation with them to encourage them, I would be happy to do that. You can see the list of clubs that we have here. I know lots of students are extremely excited, especially pickleball club. It's my understanding that's been a popular one in the past. But students will be able to sign up for those clubs on September 11th. That day is actually a long program day. So what would be kind of our chapel time, we're going to have students be able to have booths, give information about their club, and then students also signing up for clubs. Once that happens, I'm going to be compiling rosters and giving that to the teacher sponsor and the student leaders. And then I will be communicating with you of what club your child has signed up for, just so you guys can be in the know and have that communication and conversation with your student of what they're involved in and interested in. We are really emphasizing that clubs meet during the day. We know that middle school students are especially busy, and we want them to kind of dabble in various things to see what they're interested in. So we are encouraging clubs to meet during flex. And as of right now, regular meeting times, none of the clubs that have been proposed and approved have a meeting time outside of the school day, which is awesome. The only exceptions to that would be if there are events, that sort of thing, or competitions related to the club that may happen outside of the school day, but that will be communicated to you either via the sponsor or the student leaders. Another change is that student leaders are actually going to be trained. So I'm going to go over with them various expectations, how to take minutes or an agenda items, that sort of thing, to really develop those leadership skills. So then the next part is middle school houses. I don't know if your student has come home yet and said anything. This was our advisory lesson on Monday. But essentially, the hope is that we want our middle school students to really feel that they have an identity here at TMI. I know with upper school, there are a lot of things and a lot of traditions that go on, and we want to make sure that our students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade really feel seen and valued and have a community within the middle school. So houses are kind of similar to Harry Potter in essence, where you have a group and there's competitions and points involved. And so what we've done is taken the advisory group. So every house, there's 5 total, has a 6th, a 7th, and an 8th grade advisory, and they are mixed co-ed. And so some groups have 2 female, all females advisories and 1 male advisory. Some have vice versa, but all in the idea that we want our students to be able to mingle with one another. I know it can be a little bit scary in middle school to step out of your social bubble, but we really do believe that we're better together. And we felt like this was a great way to get students involved, meeting new people, and making those genuine connections. So for right now, our houses are just named after the Greek letters, the first 5 of them. So we have Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, and Epsilon. However, the ideal goal is that those houses will then be named after alumni. And the big dream is that those alumnus will be able to come and speak to their houses, be involved in activities, that sort of thing. And so right now, we do have 3 of the 5 houses named, but we have not announced those names yet because we want to be able to do that once we have all 5. So a plug, if you are an alumnus of TMI, we would love for you to consider that. You can email me or the Alumni Relations Department. But we are really excited for that component of just engaging the community while we're also building the community within our students at TMI. So on Fridays only during lunch in the refectory, students are going to be assigned a house meal seat. So within their house, there's about 4 tables per house, and they're going to be seated with other people. Some of them they may know, some of them they may not. But the hope is that students are able to really kind of connect and just ask students how their day is, building those social skills and the empathy skills. And then there will be some kind of game or competition. So for example, this Friday is going to be trivia. So every table will have a little sheet of paper and we'll read out those 10 trivia questions. And that's an opportunity for that house to receive points. For the point system, the hope is that we are incentivizing positive behaviors. So students, yes, can earn points within the refectory by cleaning up after themselves, following behavioral expectations, but also throughout the school day. So while myself and Miss Sanderson are primarily in charge of giving points, really teachers can say, hey, so-and-so did this, they were helping a student out, and we can give them points. So the idea then is we're looking out for each other and really developing a sense of camaraderie. And what's even awesomer is, and I know that's not a word, but I'm really excited about this, we are partnering with Father Ben with Chapel. And so on Fridays, there will also be opportunities for students to earn house points in chapel. So they will also have house seating there. So again, we're just really hoping that students will develop genuine connections with one another and hopefully be surprised about some of their classmates that they may not have gotten the chance to get to know. So we're really excited and looking forward to that. So that will kick off this Friday for the first time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mrs. Clements. Okay, so back to my side of the world. So National Junior Honor Society is making a comeback this year. So here's the criteria for your student to be able to join NJHS. So we're asking that they are enrolled in TMI for at least 2 semesters. So 6th graders will have an opportunity next year to get inducted into the NJHS chapter. We have at TMI a cumulative GPA of 95% or above. They will be asked to have doubled service hours by the end of the year in order to maintain their membership. So they do still have till May to get to those, and we'll review those at the end of the year. We will be sending out one recommendation to the student's choice to a teacher, and the teacher will get that filled out, and then just a note, any kind of disciplinary issues that the student must be in good standing. And so any disciplinary issues may result in a student being asked to leave a chapter. Right now, we are planning on sending out the applications in January, so keep an eye out for those. And then we actually just set the induction date for March 27th. So mark your calendars if you know your student's going to want to join. And if you have any questions on that, just let me know. Mrs. Clements, myself, and then Mrs. Falk are all kind of co-sponsors in this program. So last year we had students, it's kind of the first year since COVID, we've been all in on CPT tests. That being said, I know a lot of parents kind of had some alarms and stuff go off whenever you got your data back. One of the biggest things that I'm concentrating on this year is focusing on those CTP scores, breaking things down by standards with the teachers, talking about seating, remedial work, what can we do as teachers to help lift up those students and then lift up the high students even higher. And so we're really diving deep into that CTP work. On the flip side of that, also having the students take ownership of taking those tests. I know there's kind of the thought at TMI that the tests aren't really used for much, but I have done a lot of deep diving over the summer into this data and what it's representing. That being said, some of you may be familiar with MAP growth test that your students have taken at other schools. And I've been at a school before that took those, and I love those because I like to see the students grow throughout the year. The students like to see themselves grow throughout the year and their knowledge base grow even more. And so we are actually going to be implementing, milestone tests, which is ERB is the big testing program that we use. For admissions, we use IC, that's a section of their testing. In middle school, we use CTP testing. But also they now offer milestones, which is their version of MAP growth test. So the students will be taking all they take is an English test and a math test. These tests can be done within the class. They're only 45-minute tests. And so now we can start to use the beginning of the year data to help drive what don't we need to focus on? What do the kids know from last year? What do they remember from last year? But what are they missing to help drive where we're going for the rest of the year? So we're going to take those Monday through Thursday, September 25th through the 28th. 4 days seems like a long time, but what's going to happen is Monday, Tuesday, we're going to take the English version of it. And then on Wednesday, Thursday, they'll take the math version. That way they're not taking 2 tests in a day. So it's really your kids only taking 2 tests within that week for the milestone tests. We'll do this again in January to help just see where are we at, how are we doing, where do we need to push a little bit more to get us to that CTP test in April. So really diving into the data, considering where are our students at, where do we have gaps in our curriculum, and how are we going to close those in the future. That being said, all these tests are done online. So your students over the next month are going to be downloading a secure browser. So here's the criteria for the computers that your students might need to have. Most computers, if you've bought a computer in the last few years, are going to already meet this criteria. The flip side of it is, in order to download the secure browser, we also need to disable any firewall or security software you might have on your student's computer. And so I'll be sending home, we're just going to go ahead and try to download the secure browser. If your child does have software that's denying us from being able to download it, I'll send a letter home to you asking you to disable it so we can get it downloaded the next day. And then you can reinstall that security system, whatever you have on that computer. So that will be coming in the next couple of weeks. And anytime you have questions on your students' scores, what's happening, let me know. And we can always review those. Sorry. All right. Enrichment courses. So everybody got an email last Friday. This has been one of my big projects, and some of the parents had already known that these were coming. We always advertise that we teach the whole child, but in middle school, since we're under the upper school, we have their schedule. So we have the 8 classes. So we have our 4 core classes, world language, fine arts, leaves us with 2 extra periods, which is athletics. We're out of time. Your students are busy all day, every day. But I also know that they need other classes to teach the whole child. That personal finance class that I'm offering, music if they're not in music, strength and conditioning, choir. We don't have a middle school choir right now. Leadership classes. There's so many opportunities, and our teachers have so many great talents. I was like, what can I do? So I got with the athletics department and we decided, Friday practices, most games are done by that time in the week. There might be a couple Friday games that students will be, excused from these classes. But we decided, Friday afternoons is a great opportunity. We didn't want to do anything earlier in the week because they need to practice for their athletics because they might have a game that week. So we decided to offer it Friday afternoon. So your students do not need to bring any athletic wear ever on a Friday for the rest of the year. I know right now you're probably wondering what class is your student in for the first quarter. The form was due today. And so tomorrow I will be Miss Clements and I will be locked in a room and sorting out who's going where and at what quarter and all the things you're wondering about it. And your student and you will get an email tomorrow, at least for the first quarter of what class they're taking. And then we'll do a follow-up email if need be for where they're going to go for the rest of the year. So super excited about this. And the teachers are giving up their prep period. So all the teachers that are offering a course usually have that as a planned period. But they're so excited about it that they're giving it up on a Friday afternoon to teach your kids something new and wonderful. So any questions on that, you just let me know. And then the last few things that we have are just kind of random things. Some of you may have come from a school that had a program called School Pass for attendance. We are also going to be adopting this as well. So your students over the next few weeks will be given like a little scan fob. Imagine you're going to Lifetime Fitness or you belong to like the Joint Chiropractor. You get those little barcodes that attach to like a keychain. All students will have one of those that's going to be attached to a clip that they can clip to their backpack, they can clip to their belt loop, and they're going to be able to scan into each of their classes to say that they're there. They also, if they need to go to the nurse, they will scan out of that class and then they will scan back in at the nurse's office. So we'll be able to track where your students are at different times. If they leave for the restroom, they're kind of tracking out, they're going to scan out, go to the restroom, come back. If they need to go up to the student support center, same situation. And then we're also using that system for your students to be checked in and out of school. So when they go up to the student office, they're just going to they can either scan their little card, or the cards are actually attached directly to their student number. So many students have their student numbers memorized. New students have no idea that they even have a student number. Those numbers can be found on campus, but we're encouraging students to also memorize those because they can also keypad it in. So if they go up to the student office and need to sign in, but they can't find their key fob, they can use that as well. More information is forthcoming about all of this school pass information, but I just wanted to let you know that it is here and we're super excited about it so we can kind of track where kids are on our campus. That being said, pickup. I know some of you have been getting messages from your students that we're kind of cracking down a little bit more on where students are on campus. In light of where we are in the world today, we need to have accountability on where students are. We need to know who is on campus, what times they're on campus, and who is watching over them. There have been things that have happened locally in San Antonio that cause concern. There's things happening across the world. We have a wonderful, beautiful campus, but after school, there is no one person that has eyes on your child. Your children are our number one priority. So we want to make sure that we know who's on campus, when they're on campus, and when they're getting picked up. So if students are there past 4:15, we've been trying to circle them up and get them into Ayers Hall. We have another program forthcoming of where students could actually go at that time to where they do have somebody who has accountability on them and who is watching over them. But we cannot have students any longer just sticking around to stay for that 6 o'clock basketball game. There needs to be a parent with them if they're going to be at those games, because we need somebody to make sure that they're being well behaved, they're where they're supposed to be, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So we are tightening the belt a little bit more as far as outside of school hours and accountability. If you have any more questions about that, please, 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 you can get into my email. You can schedule a meeting with me through my calendar. But we just want to make sure kids are safe and where they're supposed to be. The other part of this is I know that we are kind of in between of trying to figure out what time kids are getting out of sports. I believe cross country is getting out at 3:45, volleyball's between 4 and 4:15, football's at 4:30. Make sure that if you don't know what time your child's getting out of their sport, reach out to the coach. Please, 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 please. And just ask what time they're supposed to be getting out. The 2-line situation actually today was great. I didn't have to ask for more cars to come down. I'm usually asking Mrs. Nelson up at the corner, like, send me more cars. I need more cars down here so I can start naming more kids. But today, parents were coming around. It really does speed up the line if you just kind of follow our direction and go where we tell you to go. So yes, I know that there is an issue with siblings and after school sports. And so that's why we're trying to find a common place that those kids can go to where they are accounted for. Definitely that is something on our radar, especially when we have a middle school student with an upper school sibling. They are struggling to they need a place to go. You don't want to make 2 trips here. I mean, I know I live 45 minutes from campus. I would not want to make 2 trips either. So we're going to have kind of a place for those students to have accountability and to be, that's not the Ayers lobby where they feel like they're in trouble or something. There's just going to be a spot on campus that kids that are just hanging out actually can have a place to hang out. Cell phones, I just want to send it when I send the recording of this message, I'm actually going to attach an updated app list that I made last year. I just want to remind you guys, be aware of what's happening on your students' cell phones. There are so many hidden apps out there. You can change any icon on a phone and make it what you want it to be. So if your child's not on Snapchat, maybe double check and go look at the app that looks like a camera, or go look at an app that has a calculator. They can hide apps at this point. And so if you're thinking, oh, I have it all under control and things like that, just kind of do a double take through different apps on children's phones. I mean, you do what you want to do, but I just kind of want to remind you that cell phones cause, I would say, 90% of the social issues in middle school. And it's rough. It is hard out there. I am so glad I am not in my teenage years right now. Middle school was hard enough as it was. I cannot imagine having the phone, social media, and the pressures that these kids have now. So please, please, please make sure you're just checking in on them and what they're doing on those phones. Eighth grade parents, a little reminder for you all. I sent out emails earlier this week that the remaining balance is due next week. So please make sure you're logging into your close-up accounts and getting that paid. If you lost your login information, just let me know. I can shoot it your way. I have it all. And then we are going to have a mandatory parent meeting on Wednesday, September 20th in the chapel. I want everyone there in person so we can talk all logistics. What do the children need to pack? What are we doing? All those things. I did check. There's no sports games as of right now. If it gets added, I had this on the calendar. I'm gonna say here, I had it on the calendar first. We'll be meeting at 5 o'clock. So from 5 to 6 o'clock, we will be meeting in the chapel. And I will give you all information. The kids are encouraged to come to the meeting as well. So it does not just have to be parents, kids can come as well. They'll hear everything at school, but hearing it twice never hurts at all. All right. The next, I'm going to go through some of these questions and circle back, but I'm going to let Ms. Clements talk about this next slide.
Yes. So last year, I know that there was a homecoming dance for middle school in addition to the upper school only homecoming dance. And so this year, instead of doing two dances, the homecoming dance and the winter dance, we're going to do a homecoming color war event. And so I'm not sure if you guys ever have participated in different fun runs. They typically do this where they have powder paint, like diluted paint, that sort of thing. And so we're doing kind of like a tailgate-esque style event. We have the privilege of kicking off the homecoming week because that is the very first day of it. And so our event is going to be from 10 a.m. to noon. And similar to what Ms. Anderson was just saying, we have confirmed that there is not any sport games as well, so it won't conflict as far as TMI affiliated events. And so we will have this on campus in Stars Lawn. And so the idea is that students will be able to come play yard games, that sort of thing. We'll have food, drinks, and then the last about 20 to 30 minutes will be the color war. So there'll be a variety of different styles, relay style things. And the very end, they get powder paint. So it will be a messy event. So just make sure you are aware of that. So we already have been advertising this to students and are asking them to make sure that they wear clothes that they know they will get messy in. When I've done these events previously, I used to work part-time for a ministry and we did this many times. One thing that kids really enjoyed was wearing Crocs, just because they're easy to wash. So just a tip to you guys. And something exciting, we just confirmed this today, but Miss Anderson and I are going to be having free t-shirts that are white and it'll say Middle School Homecoming Color War 2023. And so the idea is students can wear that shirt and get color on it and have a keepsake. And so we're just really excited to have this new event and just another way for students to be able to connect and be with one another, and just really see how it goes. And hopefully this will become an annual thing. We will still have the winter dance in December. So a dance will still happen. It'll be a formal-ish type of dance and more information will come as that date approaches. But we just wanted to get this to you guys. And if you have any questions about it, please feel free to reach out and I'd be happy to answer them.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so NJHS is now open to sixth grade. We do need them here for 2 semesters. So sixth graders will be able to apply next year. Usually we do have it for just 7th and 8th graders. Ms. Clements, can you touch back on the Monday pullover criteria?
Yes, and I apologize. I cannot see the chat.
That's why I'm scrolling through it.
Perfect.
Right?
So I just want to make sure. Yes. So for the pullovers, so they can be gray, so solid gray, solid white, or solid black, and they can have a 2-inch logo or smaller. So I know right now it's pretty popular to have the large like crew neck sweatshirts that say Nike real big or Adidas or whatever that may be. Those are not permitted, but those little logos, kind of like the TMI shirt that I have here, if it's a Nike logo here or whatever that may be, that's permitted, but it does still need to be solid gray, black, or white.
Perfect. I had a question about the library. Last year, the library was off limits to middle school during Flex. This year, Miss Clements and I are walking around. I don't have my cup with me. I have a different cup. We have fanny packs on our little Stanley cups that we walk around with passes in them. And kids know that they can just come find us and we'll write
I
them
don't want to need it.
Oh, so we have passes for the kids. We have limited amount of them just because the time that we are going to the library, upper school is also using it. So we're giving out 20 passes a day. It's a first come, first serve basis. I actually haven't given out all my passes every day, but any kids that want to go to the library, they can. During flex time, their other options are that there's a study hall Wednesday through Friday. They can get a pass and go down to the Walker Innovation Center. They can be outside. They can be in another teacher's room, or again, they can go up to the library. Library and the Walker are the places that need a pass, but they can, Mrs. Clements and I are constantly, we walk around with them in our hand so we can write them for them right then and there. So the Washington, D.C. meeting again on September 20th is at 5 o'clock in the chapel. And then our last slide is just a little plug. Next week we have a fundraiser. Coach P had sent out an email saying, hey, it's Hawaii Day for their football game. So everyone in the crowd is supposed to dress Hawaiian themed. And we instantly jumped on that and said, oh, we could raise money for Maui. And so we have a little bit of a fundraiser happening. More information is forthcoming. Check out news and notes for that as well. Ms. Clements, any last words from you?
So sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. No, I don't. I'm just very grateful to be part of the community. And I know Miss Anderson has said it, but please reach out to us. We're here to support you guys. I feel like something we've been saying a lot is being proactive. So please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, need anything. We're happy to support you and your student.
Awesome. And I had one more question on here. Back to School Pass really quick. School Pass is just an attendance tracking system. So just a little key fob for your kids to scan in and out. We know where, if they're at the nurse, we know if they're at the student support center. We just know where they are on campus because we're really trying to crack down on that. But thank you all so much for taking time out of your evening to visit with us. And as always, our doors are always open. Let us know if you guys have any questions.